Welcome to the channel Prophecies of Tomorrow, where we explore deep and revealing ideas. In today's video, we will delve into a topic that will undoubtedly touch your soul and awaken your curiosity. What Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, has to tell us about the condition of the human mind and the limits of what we call a sick mind. Jung, with his vast experience and unique vision of the unconscious, offers us a perspective that goes beyond clinical diagnoses, entering the realm of spirituality, the soul, and the human psyche. The word mental illness carries considerable weight in our modern society. Many associate this term with disorders such as depression, schizophrenia, or anxiety. However, Carl Jung, in his profound and complex work, challenges this simplistic view. For Jung, mental illness is not just a biological or chemical failure, but also an expression of inner imbalance, often related to aspects of the soul that have not been properly recognized or understood. Jung believed that the unconscious is a vast ocean of psychic energy, loaded with symbols and deep meanings. When our conscious mind loses the ability to integrate these unconscious elements, we begin to experience what we could call mental illness. However, he warned that what many see as a pathology may, in reality, be a call for spiritual transformation. Illness, in this sense, is not an end, but a means of awakening to a new consciousness. Have you ever wondered if the mental challenges we face might be more than simple dysfunctions, but signs of something deeper within us? Carl Jung introduced the idea of a collective unconscious, a vast repository of experiences, memories, and images shared by all humanity. This concept, which distanced itself from Freud's theories, expanded the notion of the unconscious to include not only personal and repressed content, but also the universal archetypes that form the basis of our psyche. But what exactly are these archetypes, and how do they relate to our mental health? Archetypes for Jung are patterns of psychic energy that reside in the collective unconscious. They are symbols that appear spontaneously in our dreams, myths, stories, and even in our daily experiences. These archetypes are not just images or abstract ideas. They are fundamental structures of the human psyche, representing forces that shape people's behavior and perceptions. Among the best-known archetypes are the hero, the shadow, the anima, and the animus. But there are many others, each reflecting different aspects of the psyche. Jung saw the archetype of shadow as one of the most powerful manifestations of the unconscious. The shadow represents the aspects of the personality that a person represses or denies. These are the qualities and emotions that do not fit into the public or socially acceptable image of who we are. The shadow often carries negative aspects, such as anger, fear, and insecurity, but it can also contain positive traits that the person does not recognize or does not know how to express. Ignoring the shadow can lead to emotional and mental imbalances as it accumulates in the unconscious and eventually seeks a way to manifest itself, often in destructive ways. But what happens when the shadow manifests? Jung believed that this could occur in several ways, such as emotional crises, irrational behaviors, or even unexpected outbursts of anger. When the shadow is not integrated, it becomes a point of conflict within the psyche, which can generate what many consider mental illnesses. But Jung challenged us to see these crises as opportunities for self-knowledge, and not as simple problems to be fixed. A soul and the animus, on the other hand, are archetypes that represent the feminine and masculine qualities within each person, regardless of their biological sex. The anima is the feminine aspect present in men, while the animus is the masculine aspect present in women. Jung believed that the integration of these opposing aspects was essential to achieving wholeness and inner harmony. When a person denies or rejects this opposite side, they may face a series of internal conflicts, as these archetypes are essential for psychic balance. These archetypes are not just abstract or psychological concepts. They have a deep connection to our life experience, appearing in our relationships, the choices we make, and even the way we deal with our daily challenges. Jung believed that archetypes often manifest in our dreams. Recurring dreams of persecution, for example, may be a representation of our struggle with the shadow, while a dream of transformation or renewal may be a symbol of individuation. the process of becoming who we truly are, integrating all aspects of our psyche. Why are archetypes so important for our mental health? Because they are the key to understanding the unconscious patterns that govern our actions and reactions. We often act in ways we don't understand, but these behaviors are rooted in our archetypes. Healing, for Jung, begins when we can recognize these patterns and begin to integrate them, accepting both the positive and negative forces they represent. When someone goes through a mental crisis, they may be dealing with an internal conflict between the archetypes of their psyche. Imagine, for example, someone who finds themselves dominated by the shadow, constantly making impulsive and destructive decisions, without understanding why they act this way. For this person, the healing process would involve bringing this repressed part of themselves into consciousness and integrating these shadow aspects. This can be a painful and challenging process, but, according to Jung, it is necessary to achieve individuation. Jung also believed that archetypes manifest themselves through mythology and of myth shared by different cultures. These myths, according to Jung, are not just ancient stories. They are symbolic expressions of our own internal struggles and our deepest desires. For example, the myth of Hercules facing the 12 labors can be interpreted as a symbolic representation of the challenges that we all face in the search for self-knowledge and personal overcoming. These myths are, in many ways, reflections of the archetypes that live within us, waiting to be recognized and integrated. The impact of archetypes on the human psyche goes beyond individual psychology. They also affect our social and cultural interactions. Modern society, with its norms and expectations, often forces us to suppress certain aspects of our personality. For example, men may be socially pressured to hide their emotions, and women may feel that they must always be careful and passive. When these archetypes are not expressed in a healthy way, the mind can suffer imbalances that manifest in emotional or psychological disorders. It is in this context that Jung's work becomes relevant for those seeking healing. He teaches us that to be mentally healthy, we need to recognize and accept all aspects of our psyche, including those we prefer to hide or ignore. Archetypes, then, are not our enemies, but powerful allies on the path to healing. By understanding and accepting them, we take the first steps towards true inner freedom. Now, imagine a time in your life where you faced a psychological crisis or challenge. Maybe you felt lost or without direction. What aspects of your psyche did you feel were in conflict? Could it be that this crisis was, in some way, a reflection of a non-integrated archetype? When reflecting on this question, you begin to realize the importance of looking inside yourself and recognizing the archetypes that are acting in your life. Have you ever had a moment when you recognized an archetype in your life, be it the hero, the shadow, or the anima? How has this affected your mental health? Leave your experiences and reflections on the presence of archetypes in your life in the comments. Individuation is a central concept in Carl Jung's psychology and refers to the process of integration and unification of all parts of the psyche to achieve wholeness. For Jung, mental health is not just about the absence of illnesses or disorders, but about a person's ability to fully become who they are, reconciling their conscious and unconscious aspects. Individuation is therefore a journey of self-knowledge, self-discovery, and healing, in which we face our fears, our weaknesses, and our shadows, but also our virtues and potential. The journey of individuation is often represented in myths and stories, where the protagonist must face challenges and overcome obstacles. This journey is fundamental to our evolution as human beings. Jung believed that if we didn't engage in this process, we could become stagnant or even become mentally ill. He saw mental illness as a manifestation of a lack of individuation, a sign that a part of the psyche was being neglected or repressed. In other words, mental illness arises when we become disconnected from our true selves, or when we fail to integrate the parts of our psyche that are most difficult to face. Individuation largely involves the integration of shadow. As we saw previously, the shadow contains those aspects of our personality that we do not recognize or accept. It relates to our repressed emotions, destructive behaviors, and parts of the psyche we prefer to ignore. But for individuation to occur, it is necessary to look the shadow in the face and accept its dark parts, without denying them. This can be a painful process, as we often find ourselves confronted with aspects of ourselves that we would like to avoid. However, Jung believed that it is only through accepting the shadow that we can achieve wholeness. A fundamental aspect of individuation is the recognition of soul and the animus, the archetypes of the feminine and masculine, present in all of us. For Jung, the integration of these aspects is essential for mental health. When a person ignores or represses their anima or animus, they can suffer from internal imbalances. A man who denies his feminine side, for example, may become overly aggressive or insensitive, while a woman who rejects her masculine side may feel powerless or unable to make decisions. Individuation, therefore, requires that we seek a balance between internal opposites and integrate these polarities within our psyche. Furthermore, Jung saw the symbolism as an important element in the individuation process. Throughout our lives, we are constantly confronted with symbols and images that, when interpreted correctly, can help guide our journey. Jung believed that these symbolic images arise in our dreams, art, religion, and many other forms of human expression. These symbols are like maps that guide us in our search for meaning and authenticity. When we ignore these symbols, we can get lost on our journey. But when we listen to and integrate them, they help us move forward on the path to individuation. Individuation is not an easy or quick process. It often requires a deconstruction of everything we believe to be about ourselves in order to rebuild ourselves in a more authentic and integrated way. Jung believed that if we don't do this inner work, we can end up trapped in a false identity, those social masks we wear to please others or to adapt to society's expectations. These masks, however, are like invisible prisons that prevent us from being who we really are. Jung also spoke of the importance of religion and from spirituality in the individuation process. Although he was a psychologist, Jung viewed spirituality as a central aspect of the human psyche, essential to a person's development. He believed that connecting with something greater than ourselves, whether through religion or inner searching, is fundamental to achieving wholeness. Often, when we confront our own shadows and fears, we are led to a deeper search for meaning and purpose. This spiritual quest, according to Jung, is an indispensable part of individuation. The individuation process can be compared to a mental care. By integrating the unconscious aspects and confronting the parts of ourselves we don't like to see, we are essentially healing ourselves. Jung saw healing work as a path to realizing the true self, which is unique and irreplicable. This healing process, although painful, is a natural part of life and essential for personal growth. When we are able to embrace our totality, accepting both the positive and negative aspects of our psyche, we reach a state of balance and mental harmony. But how can we know if we are on the right path? How do we know if we are advancing in our individuation? Jung suggested that one of the main indicators was our authenticity. If, when looking inside ourselves, we can see our weaknesses, our mistakes, and our limitations without judging them or feeling ashamed, this is a sign that we are on the path to individuation. Authenticity for Jung was one of the most important qualities for mental health. An authentic person is one who accepts himself completely, without masks, without deception, and who lives in accordance with his true nature. Now, reflect on your own life. Have you faced your shadow? Have you been trying to integrate the hidden aspects of your psyche? Or have you been avoiding them, ignoring their shadows and weaknesses? How could the search for wholeness transform the way you see yourself and relate to the world? Leave your reflections in the comments and share your experience with the journey of individuation. We are all on this path together. At the heart of Carl Jung's psychology is the concept of collective unconscious. This is one of the most fascinating and, at the same time, mysterious aspects of Jung's work. He believed that the human mind is not just an individual repository of experiences and memories, but that there is a deep layer of the psyche shared by all humanity. This collective unconscious is formed by universal archetypes that are transmitted through generations, linked to symbols, images, and experiences that cross time and space. Archetypes for Jung are primordial images, universal patterns of behavior and experiences that are deeply rooted in the human psyche. They are not learned, but are biologically inherited, shaping the way we think, feel, and act. These archetypes manifest themselves in our lives in different ways, such as mythical figures, religious characters, or even universal behaviors and emotions, such as the hero, the mother, the wise man, and the trickster. They are reflected in our dreams, myths, religions, and even in works of art and literature. For example, the archetype of hero. It is a powerful image that is present in all cultures. The hero is the one who faces challenges, adversity, and fights against external forces, often in search of self-knowledge or salvation. This archetype is not limited to great mythological or literary characters, but is also present in our everyday lives. All of us, at some point, have faced challenges that require courage and strength, and this hero archetype drives us to move forward, even when the difficulties seem insurmountable. Archetypes are, in fact, the language of the collective, unconscious. They represent the universal ways that the human psyche uses to process and understand life's experiences. Through them, we are able to connect our personal experiences with the biggest themes and universal issues of humanity. Through reflection on these archetypes, we can gain deep insights into our own psyche and our place in the world. Jung argued that the collective unconscious has an enormous influence on mental health and human behavior. When we are disconnected from this collective unconscious, or when we ignore the archetypes that arise in our lives, we can experience a psychological imbalance. This disconnection can lead us to alienation, the feeling of being lost or disconnected from reality. On the other hand, when we reconnect with the collective unconscious, we begin to realize the unity that exists among all human beings, our connection with history and humanity as a whole. Interestingly, Jung also believed that the collective unconscious is not only related to our individual psyche, but also to our connection with the divine. For him, the archetypes and symbols that emerge in the collective unconscious have a strong link with spiritual and religious experience. Jung believed that religion was not just a human invention, but a profound archetypal answer to the existential questions we all face. Divine archetypes, such as God the Father, Mother Earth, or the Holy Spirit, are expressions of universal aspects of the human psyche that transcend any specific religion or tradition. Therefore, Jung saw the religion as a way of getting in touch with the collective unconscious, allowing individuals to experience a deep connection with the sacred. He believed that religious symbols and rituals are powerful because they tap into the deepest layers of the human psyche, helping individuals confront their own inner demons and achieve a broader understanding of life and the universe. Spirituality, therefore, plays a crucial role in mental health as it allows us to access a deeper level of consciousness where we can find meaning and purpose. In his work, Jung also addressed the concept of synchronicity, which is the idea that seemingly random or unrelated events can be connected by deeper meaning. Synchronicity is a manifestation of the collective unconscious, as it allows us to perceive the interconnections that exist between us and the world around us. When we are in tune with the collective unconscious, we can be more receptive to synchronicity and notice patterns of meaning that help us make decisions and find our path in life. An example of synchronicity could be the moment you think about a person you haven't seen for a long time, and suddenly you receive a message from that person. Or you are in a moment of existential crisis and come across a book or quote that seems to have been written exactly for you. These moments of synchronicity are signs that we are connected to something greater, to a cosmic flow of meaning that transcends time and space. However, not all aspects of the collective unconscious are beneficial. Jung warned of the potential negative of archetypes and unconscious influences. When archetypes are not integrated in a healthy way, they can manifest in destructive ways, such as obsessions, compulsions, and emotional disorders. The collective shadow, for example, is made up of those aspects of the human psyche that society rejects or denies, such as evil, violence, and ignorance. Jung believed that if we do not confront this shadow, it can become a destructive force, not only on an individual level, but also on a collective level, affecting society as a whole. Therefore, the work of dealing with the collective unconscious is twofold. On the one hand, it involves the search for the integration of positive archetypes and symbols that connect us to our humanity and spirituality. On the other hand, it requires facing the collective shadow, that dark and ignored part, of the human psyche that, if not recognized and transformed, can generate social and personal imbalances. Reflections on the collective unconscious lead us to question how aware we are of the forces that shape our lives and our society. Have you ever wondered where your deepest beliefs and values come from? Were these ideas formed from your own experience or from a collective archetype that has been passed down over time? How can you better integrate positive archetypes into your life and deal with the dark aspects that still affect your psyche? Leave your comments and share your reflections on the collective unconscious. Let's explore these deep mysteries of the human psyche together. Throughout Carl Jung's work, the concept of individuation occupies a central place. Individuation is the process by which a person becomes entire and authentic, achieving balance between the different parts of your psyche. For Jung, mental health is not simply the absence of diseases or disorders, but rather the realization of the full potential of a human being, which only occurs when we are able to integrate all parts of our psyche, both the conscious and the unconscious. The individuation process is a long and often painful journey, as it involves the coping of the dark aspects of the psyche, which are represented by the so-called shadow. The shadow consists of everything we reject or ignore about ourselves, whether out of fear, shame, or social conventions. These are the personality traits and behaviors that we do not accept, that we do not want to recognize, or that we simply cannot see. It is often linked to what we consider negative in ourselves, such as aggressive impulses, envy, egocentrism, or emotional weaknesses. However, the shadow is not necessarily something evil. Rather, it contains aspects of our potential that have been repressed, denied, or undeveloped. Jung believed that by integrating these shadow parts of ourselves, we can achieve true treatment, emotional and mental. This process of integrating the shadow is fundamental for the healthy development of the psyche, as it allows us to recognize and accept who we really are, without masks or falsehoods. Individuation also involves contact with the self, which for Jung is not the ego but the totality of being, the deepest and most authentic essence of each individual. The ego, which is the conscious part of our psyche, is only a small part of the whole. The self is the nucleus that integrates all parts of the psyche, both conscious and unconscious, forming a harmonious and balanced unit. When we achieve this balance, we are able to live a fuller and more satisfying life, as we are no longer dominated by unconscious impulses and ego limitations. The path to individuation is not easy and requires courage, as the individual needs to face their own fears, doubts, and limitations. The dream analysis is one of the most powerful tools Jung used to access the unconscious and help people better understand their psyche. Dreams are a window into the unconscious, where important messages about our deepest desires, fears, and desires are hidden. Through dream interpretation, it is possible to discover archetypes and unrecognized aspects of the psyche, facilitating the individuation process. Individuation is not a process that occurs in a linear or predictable way. Sometimes, the individual may be faced with existential crises, moments of great emotional suffering or feeling of loss, as if your life is out of control. These periods of crisis are, in fact, an essential part of the journey, as they are moments of transformation deep. Jung saw these crises as opportunities for renewal of the psyche, when the individual is forced to confront the darkest parts of themselves and make significant changes in their life. As individuation unfolds, the individual begins to move away from social masks and external expectations and moves closer and closer to the inner truth. This process of self-knowledge and acceptance of one's true self is liberating and transformative. When we are able to accept ourselves as we are, with all our imperfections and qualities, we are able to live a more authentic life, full of purpose and aligned with our deepest values. The concept of mental care, according to Jung, is not limited to treating the symptoms of psychological disorders, but involves the transformation of the psyche itself. By integrating the conscious and unconscious parts, the person becomes more resilient and less susceptible to the suffering caused by denying who they really are. Healing occurs when the individual reconciles with all facets of their personality, not hiding or repressing anything, but learning to live in a balanced and healthy way. But how does individuation relate to Christian faith and the spiritual quest? For Jung, individuation is also a spiritual path. as it involves the encounter with the divine and the recognition of the presence of God within ourselves. In his work, he frequently explored the relationship between the human psyche and divine archetypes that we find in different religions. Jung believed that the spiritual journey and individuation were deeply connected, as both seek union with the divine and with the real me. In Christian terms, the process of individuation can be seen as a quest to become more Christ-like, or to understand the God's will in our life. Mental healing, according to the Christian faith, often involves surrendering to God, trusting in divine providence, and recognizing that our existence has a divine purpose. This healing process is not something we can accomplish alone, but something that happens through divine grace, which supports and guides us on our journey. And for you, what does mental healing mean? Have you ever experienced moments of crisis or deep self-knowledge? Carl Jung was not only a great thinker of the 20th century, but also a pioneer voice in understanding the functioning of the human psyche. His legacy continues to influence not only psychology, but also areas such as spirituality, art, philosophy, and even religion. In an era in which mental health is being increasingly discussed and valued, Jung's ideas are extremely relevant to the contemporary world. One of Jung's greatest contributions was his analytical psychology, which brought a new perspective on the unconscious, archetypes, and individuation. He emphasized that to achieve true mental health, it is not enough to treat the symptoms of an illness. It is necessary to treat the person as a whole, considering their experiences, emotions, and the unconscious parts of their psyche. For Jung, mental difficulties often arise from internal conflict between the conscious and unconscious ego, or from the repression of important aspects of the personality. Today, we live in a highly dynamic and challenging, where external pressures, such as work stress, social expectations, and family responsibilities, often lead to mental exhaustion and to anxiety. The search for an authentic identity, purpose, and meaning in life is constantly evolving, and many find themselves faced with existential questions that can cause major emotional crises. In this scenario, Jung's ideas offer a deep reflection and a way of understanding the dynamics that are happening in our minds. The way today's society deals with mental health issues is also a topic of great interest. In many cultures, there is still a stigma around mental illnesses, which makes many individuals feel ashamed to seek help. However, with increasing awareness of psychological and emotional issues, there is a gradual shift in the way people view mental care. Jung, with his emphasis on wholeness and integration of being, teaches us that there is no shame in seeking help, nor in confronting the darkest parts of our psyche. Jungian archetypes, such as the hero, the shadow, the anima, and the animus, have proven to be powerful in understanding human psychology. They are present in myth, legends, and even in our everyday stories, and are universal ways of understanding the internal struggles we all face. The presence of shadow, for example, can manifest itself in different ways, from interpersonal conflicts to let's sabotage the car. Recognizing these archetypes and understanding how they influence our decisions and behaviors can be an important key to self-understanding and healing. Throughout history, Jung also played a fundamental role in the relationship between psychology and spirituality. Although many psychoanalysts and psychologists focus exclusively on the scientific and objective questions of the psyche, Jung was one of the first to realize that the spirituality, it was not just a matter of religious belief, but an essential part of mental health. He believed that the religious symbols, myth, and spiritual visions, they play a vital role in understanding the human unconscious and in the healing process. For Jung, religion and spirituality are expressions of the human psyche, which connect us to the divine and help us understand our place in the world. The Christian faith, for example, can be seen through a Jungian lens as a manifestation of deep archetypes of the human psyche, where Christ, the Virgin Mary, and other biblical characters represent fundamental aspects of self and internal transformation. The very concept of salvation, which for Christians means divine healing and forgiveness, can be interpreted as Jung's process of individuation, where the individual approaches his or her true self and finds peace and treatment interior. And you? Have you ever stopped to think about the relationship between spirituality and your own mental health? Are there aspects of your life that may be linked to this process of individuation, even without you realizing it? What archetypes or symbols are present in your daily life and influence your perception of the world and your emotions? How have you sought balance between the ego and the unconscious? Leave your opinion in the comments below and share with us how you have been dealing with these challenges. Together, we can further explore the depths of the unconscious and mental health. And who knows, find paths to a more authentic and fulfilling life. Carl Jung taught us that mental health is not just the absence of disease, but the integration of all parts of our psyche. It is a spiritual, psychological, and emotional path that allows us to live more authentically and fully. True healing lies in the courage to confront our shadows and reconnect with our true essence. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.